For some larger context, of course, there are about a half dozen investigations that involve the former president. This one, of course, has come to the fore with the grand jury in New York, but there are a number of state and federal investigations as well, specifically the special counsel looking at the alleged mishandling of classified information after President Trump left office. And then, of course, the Georgia case, which has gained a lot of steam in recent weeks. That's the allegation that the former president was looking for about 11,000 votes around the time of the November election. So you have this whole collection of cases, but this one really coming to the fore, and in some ways unexpectedly, it would seem, based on my conversation with one of the president's former attorneys.
Catherine Herridge, thank you. I want to go back to Robert Costa, and on that point, this vote to indict the former president of the United States, this caps a nearly 5-year investigation into Donald Trump. It comes just as he has launched a new race for president of the United States.
It's highly complicated for this district attorney because he's prosecuting on a city level a crime that he believed was allegedly committed, all while someone runs for federal office. And this case originally started as a federal investigation of how this money was paid during 2016 to see if there were any federal crimes committed during a presidential campaign. It is migrated to this level, to the city level, and this has been a highly controversial unfolding case for many years. You think about Mark Pomerantz, the former prosecutor in New York, resigned his position because he believed Alvin Bragg, the district attorney, was not moving quickly enough on this case, on a possible indictment. The former district attorney in New York, Cyrus Vance, decided not to indict Trump. Now Alvin Bragg moving forward with an indictment, seeking this indictment from the grand jury, and it's the grand jury's decision to move forward. Trump's lawyers have told CBS News repeatedly they will negotiate in terms of how this all plays out, in terms of an arrest, should it happen, now that it has happened. Look for Joe Tacopina and Susan Nicholas, the Trump lawyers, to really go minute by minute how this will unfold, how he will come up from Florida or off the campaign trail to come to Lower Manhattan. I mean, Lower Manhattan, Nora, is right where they filmed Law and Order. I mean, this is where Law and Order exists in the city of New York. Police officers everywhere. It's been highly populated in recent weeks. I've been there standing on the street corner reporting for a long time. All the cops in Lower Manhattan in full uniform because they're wary of what could happen in terms of protests. The former president called for protests. He had the expectation of an arrest, and he called for protests. So there's real unease. A lot of officers on edge in New York about what could happen when Trump comes in to be fingerprinted and ultimately arraigned.
Robert Costa, thank you. And that's the picture that we are showing right there. That is the district attorney's office, I am told. And of course, Alvin Bragg has now become a national figure himself, as the former president has some ways incited violence, has made Bragg a potential target. Security has been ramped up for the district attorney there in New York, as he is now the first prosecutor to lead an indictment of Donald Trump. I do think it's important to remember that Donald Trump has been twice indicted.
Well, twice impeached.
Excuse me, twice impeached, forgive me, and acquitted as well. He has faced numerous charges in the past, political charges of wrongdoing, and yet he has escaped accountability. This indictment is the next stage in trying to, according to those who believe he has committed wrongdoing, of holding him accountable.
And it's so revealing that this indictment, out of all of the legal challenges he has faced, the political challenges he has faced in Congress, it's ultimately his history as a business person, as a celebrity, his time in New York that suddenly comes to the fore at this stage of his life and his career. It's his association with David Pecker, the former publisher of the National Enquirer, about these alleged associations with various women, about hush money payments made by his fixer, Michael Cohen, that of all the things we've covered over the years about Donald Trump, about his real estate life, about his political life, the Russia investigation, January 6th, an insurrection, the indictment that came today, an indictment that's historic, is about New York. It's about hush money. It's about his life before the presidency.
Let's bring in CBS News legal analyst Ricky Kleeman. And Ricky, indicting a former president is unprecedented. Could this legally prevent Trump from running for president?
No. The fact that he may be indicted now in the county of New York, within the state of New York, which is Manhattan, does not have any effect whatsoever on his running for president, nor does it have any effect whatsoever if he were to win the presidency. It is not that kind of a charge. Now, if he does become the president again, and he has been convicted of a felony, then the question may become of impeachment. And of course, we do know this is a state charge, Nora. It is very different than a federal charge because he could not pardon himself if he became president of the United States again. He could only do that for a federal offense. So then the question would be, if you're looking at a possible impeachment, and now I'm like 3 layers ahead, you would be looking
let's not go there yet. Let's talk about the actual case at hand and what may be. We don't know what the specifics of this indictment are. What are some of the potential criminal charges that the president could face?
Well, as I say, is it a high crime or a misdemeanor? Some of the potential charges that he might be facing, we are led to believe, have to do with what Bob Costa was just talking about. It has to do with the payment of hush money to Stormy Daniels back in 2016, before the election. It may have to do with the payment of hush money to a former Playboy playmate, Karen McDougal, around the same time. And the reason that Alvin Bragg could go forward and ask the grand jury to indict on first misdemeanors, falsifying business records, that there were records within the Trump organization of paying back Michael Cohen, who footed the bill to pay Stormy Daniels, and the records themselves were false entries about legal services against a retainer. How Alvin Bragg would ask a grand jury to up that to a felony would have to do with the fact that it may have been to conceal another crime, which would have been a federal campaign violation. There has never been a case like this. It is a novel theory, a unique theory. And the real question ultimately may be for a judge, or perhaps even an appellate court, of whether or not this theory will stand.
Among the routine steps of a felony arrest processing in New York include being fingerprinted, being photographed, maybe even being handcuffed. Read your standard Miranda rights. Will that happen to Donald Trump?
It will happen to Donald Trump, but not the way it usually happens. It will happen as it happens with many white-collar criminals, where they are allowed to surrender by themselves, that is, with their lawyers. Donald Trump will also be surrendering by arrangement with the district attorney's office, and he will be surrounded by his Secret Service agents, as he always is, because he is entitled to that protection as a former president. So, yes, he will be processed. He will have a mugshot. He will get a booking number. He will give fingerprints, albeit electronically rather than by ink. And ultimately, whether or not he will be handcuffed is a discretionary for the police, in this case, the NYPD. If he's with Secret Service people, there is no need to handcuff him, to bring him into the courtroom to be arraigned.
Our legal analyst, Ricky Kleeman, want to bring back in Robert Costa as we are talking about this historic moment. The former president of the United States, Donald Trump, indicted on this Thursday by a grand jury in New York after what is a nearly 5-year-long investigation. What does this mean for the former president? What does it mean in terms of his supporters? What does it mean in terms of the protests that he has called from? We're at an interesting moment right now.
A very interesting moment. In fact, I just got off the phone a few minutes ago with a Republican donor, and he said that all the major donors in this country have been quiet for a long time, waiting to see if an indictment would come. Why hasn't Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin got into the race yet, or Florida Governor Ron DeSantis? Of course, they're taking their time on a decision, but they all knew this variable existed in the Republican political space. Would Trump actually be indicted in New York, and how would voters respond, not just nationally, but especially within the Republican Party? We are at a crossroads politically right now. Will other Republicans, now seeing Trump potentially humbled politically, maybe in terms of his popularity from an indictment, decide to get in. But others are waiting to see, does this give him more fuel for his own 2024 presidential campaign? Just at his latest campaign rally, he has been using his grievances about all of this legal scrutiny to propel him ahead in the Republican presidential polls. And his closest allies tell CBS News he believes this will only help him to consolidate his support.
It's interesting what you said about some of the other bigwigs in the Republican Party that have yet to enter the presidential race. And yet, this is considered perhaps the weakest of some of the other legal cases that the former president is facing, including one on the attack of January 6th. His efforts to overturn the election results in Georgia, and third, those classified documents in Mar-a-Lago. Many legal experts saying those are weightier than this New York case. And yet, because of the significance of what has just happened, the question is, will those Republicans on Capitol Hill stop defending the president? Up to this point, Robert, they have said that this is a liberal district attorney in Manhattan who is out of line.
It's hard to see which Republicans will suddenly break from Trump because of an indictment in New York, but you were spot on, Nora. This is a legal and political explosion today to have a former president indicted in the city of New York, but there's an ongoing federal grand jury on January 6th. There's an ongoing federal grand jury on Trump's handling of classified materials. And there's a special grand jury that just finished in Georgia investigating Trump's conduct after the 2020 election. Especially in Georgia, Trump allies feel that Fani Willis, the DA down there, she could move forward with her own indictment of Trump at some point in the coming weeks. We've spoken to Trump's lawyers in Georgia. They are unsure exactly what the district attorney will do. And Jack Smith, the special counsel, he is bringing in every possible Trump ally to testify, even going so far as to try to compel the former vice president of the United States, Mike Pence, to testify before a grand jury about his one-on-one private conversations with Trump.
Robert Costa, thank you. Let's also bring in our senior investigative correspondent, Catherine Herridge, who I know has been speaking with her sources. Catherine, what have you learned?
Well, Nora, a short time ago, I spoke with a longtime aide to the former president. He said that they're waiting